CPPE LCCI call for reform to ease burden of power crisis. Outrage as commercial motorists rip commuters off despite CNG use. Nigeria sees mixed effects as Iran's peace move calms oil market. Gunmen kidnap 60-year-old man in Ibadan. Atiku to discuss Nigeria's security situation during US visit. Strike, we stand with SANU, NASU. This is from ASU. Jigawa, Kano, Katsina top list of out-of-school children. Now to The Nation. The Nation newspaper has on the major headline that Obi and Kwankwaso join NDC. That's the major headline there. Also, Nestor's bad loans halt UBA First Bank Access Bank dividend payments as banking sector stability threatened. Now to the Daily Trust. 2027 calculation shift as Obi Kwankwaso join NDC. That's the headline on the Daily Trust. So now to the Guardian. It says that opposition crumbles as Atiku takes Nigeria's crisis to global stage. Still on the Guardian, Lagos workers demand 225,000 naira as NLC prepares for wage negotiation. Presidential form, Labour Party sets 50 million naira, ADC 100 million naira per candidate. Atiku slams FG over declining foreign reserves despite 5 trillion naira oil windfall. NAF strikes terrorists, destroys Abasu Aiki's hideout in Katsina. World Press Freedom Day. SERAP, NGE, HHRC demand safety, justice for journalists. Reps probe $4.6 billion HIV TB funds. Extrajudicial killing, IGP assures arrest, prosecution of suspects. The news page 5 says FG summoned South African envoy over xenophobic attacks amid concerns about rights infringements. Niger Correctional Center transports inmates to court in tricycles amid vehicle breakdown. That is what we have on the headlines on the papers this morning. And now let us welcome Law Ibeyenwa for our review. Good morning.
Good morning, Uche. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So the headlines today says, all the papers are talking about the move of Obi and Kwankwaso to join NDC, and some people are saying that the presidency is mocking Obi, saying that he's a political nomad and all of that.
Where do I start? When you're calling him a political nomad, and when people say that presidency is after Obi wherever he goes, you see this prompt response to this movement means that the movement is giving the guys at Aso Rock some sleepless nights, and if I were him, I would not even respond, and I watch the events unfold. But the way you are talking about, Obi is this and Obi is that, means that you are keeping whatever when he wakes up and when he goes to sleep and when he brushes his teeth. I don't think it's quite mature for that response to have come as early as it did. The move yesterday, the response came yesterday, which means you are all focused on Obi and what he is doing. Well, on a larger note, as a matter of fact, that move, I think it's a surprise to many people because nobody saw. Well, it's not a surprise per se because of what is happening in APC. It was but again, shortly after the Ibadan summit of opposition political parties, when they said they're going to field common candidates, not just few days after, the coalition appears to have scattered. It depends on how we look at it from. First of all, like Obi was saying, they had reason to move. Why did they have reason to move? They had reason to move because of the multiple litigations that are still pending in ADC. even though the Supreme Court has given verdict in favor of David Mark leadership. But after that, he said they should return back to the Federal High Court to continue the case. So I'm looking at the window that is left for parties to free their candidates. If it will be a very big risk for them to remain in ADC, and then not knowing what will happen next. Yeah, assuming that at the end of the day that the Federal High Court rules against the leadership, what happens? So that is really, it will be very dicey for them to remain there. Then again, the coalition have not done what we expected to do. For instance, the Atiku factor has remained the biggest problem that ADC is facing. Why do I say that? For the past how many years, this North-South rotation has happened, even though not in our constitution formally, but it's an unwritten agreement between the North and the South. And then you see how it's been going. Now, Bola Tinubu has done 4 years and wants to do another 4 years. Whether it is Bola Tinubu or somebody, but the South should be able to exhaust their 8 years in power before the power returns to the North. So, as a Democrat, I expected that Atiku would have considered that, and then up to now, the ADC has refused to say that the presidency will go to the South. That is the main cause of the matter, even beyond the infiltration that they talked about. Before the infiltration, have not even put your house in order. So you are suffering internal issues, you're also suffering infiltration as you allege. So really, I think that what happened yesterday is welcome if you welcome based on certain political dynamics. If you watch also, there have been massive movements towards the NDC following what Bian Kwankwaso did. Of course, some also are also moving to other parties, which means they are leaving ADC to remain as a carcass. So they have not, whether it is externally induced or internally induced, the ADC, all is not well in ADC, and it's reflected in movements in the political stage.
All right, now looking at what is happening in South Africa, we see that there is still outrage over attacks on Nigerians in South Africa, and about 130 Nigerians have signed up for South Africa evacuation.
Well, we had discussed this matter a few days ago, and I felt that the reaction of the Nigerian government has not been, I've not been quite impressed with the reaction. It's only yesterday that they are saying that they're inviting the High Commissioner in Nigeria for discussions. Just today, Monday. How many days after how many people are assuming that, well, even though they claim that no Nigerians have lost their lives, but there was an earlier report about 2 people haven't died, even though I heard the Minister of Foreign Affairs explain that they died in the hands of security men and all that, but death is death. So, and I expected that beyond advising Nigerians, that's all I keep saying. Nigerians should not open their shops, Nigerians should not move around, Nigerians should stay indoors. What have you done at the diplomatic level? What have you done to engage government versus government on this matter? Personally, I may be wrong, but I've not seen much of that in terms of government to government. I mean, I think that if I were the president, I would have picked up my phone to call the South African counterpart. Look at what is happening to my countrymen. But again, if even those in Nigeria, they're not even under facing more danger than those in South Africa. People will say, maybe people will say, are you fixed? What of those dying in the country? Why should we be bothered about few that have died in South Africa or that few that will die in South Africa? So again, it has to do with our security, our emphasis on the lives of Nigerians. Again, I've not been quite impressed with our reaction to that incident. This is not the first, and they saw it coming, and what have we done up till now? So let us try to place more values on lives of Nigerians, and then, okay, like those, there's a one that I registered to indicated interest to return home. When they return home, where are they returning home to? To face what we are all facing in Nigeria. So The major thing is that there is need for Nigerian government to sit up and fix the country, put the country in order. If the country is doing well, economically, socially, and everything, people need to really travel out of the country? If you make the investment climate very conducive, clement, what will people be? People are moving out because they are looking for means of livelihood, which they cannot find within the country. So basically, I think that the government should try as much as possible to fix the country. Look at somebody is talking about the what I have Ghana from the Iran war, 5 something trillion naira.
Yes.
What do you call it?
Windfall.
Windfall. Have you felt the impact? And you are still, of course, going on and borrowing and all that and all that. So, please, I beg the government. I beg. That's why Nigerians should keep their eyes open as we look into 2027. Let us look for a way and how to train a government that will fix this country for us. It is very, very important. That is the way I look at it. Because if Nigeria is in order, these things will not be happening. People won't be joking with Nigerians wherever they are in the world.
True. Now, World Press Freedom Day, The Guardian says that SERAP, NGE, HHRC demand safety and justice for journalists. This also appears in the Vanguard, where they say protect journalists, end insecurity and impunity. These bodies are telling Tinubu and the government.
Well, the journalism is an endangered profession in Nigeria, no doubt about that. Because even though they claim that it's press freedom, but the freedom is quite limited. And then we have seen quite some people who have lost their lives in the line of duty, cameramen, reporters, and here and there. So I think that I agree with them for the call that there should be more to protect the men of the profession, because they are the fourth, how do you put it, the fourth realm, you know. The fourth estate of the realm. Now the fourth estate of the realm, after the legislature, executive, and judiciary, that then comes the journalist at the fourth estate, which says a lot about the pivotal role they play in the society, and that they need all the protection so that they serve their role, play their role effectively as a watchdog of society. Because without journalists, I mean, we are nowhere.
Right. Now, this strike with SANU and NASU. Now, ASU is also supporting the strike, and he's saying that they stand with these two bodies going on strike.
That's good. That's good. But like I said earlier, the government has promised that there won't be any more strikes in the studies of learning, and it's happening. That is it's a fair promise. So I earlier said that I like the way that the Minister of Education has handled the ASU issue. I just encourage him to do same with the other unions. We have had a lot of issues with the academic community, with the universities, and not just universities, even the polytechnics and other levels of education. So I think everything needs to be done to fix that sector. It is a very fundamental sector that has to do with our development, our plan and everything. You can't joke with your education sector and still develop or want to develop as a nation. I mean, I pray that something will be done seriously in the next few days.
And we see that there are a lot of out-of-school children, particularly in northern states like Jigawa, Kano, and Katsina. These states top the list of out-of-school children in Nigeria.
Well, quite unfortunate, and that is why some northern elements, what are not quite happy with the government that I have had in that region over the years. It's a place that people prefer to give handouts, call people, share money without fixing the infrastructure in the area. The North has been unfairly treated by those who have led that area over the past so many years. And this out-of-school children, it reflects impacts on security in the country. Because this, when somebody is well learned and properly engaged, he thinks less of crime. But when somebody doesn't even place any value in his own life, he can go become, carry bombs and then explode and IED and all that. So when we fix education, we are fixing security invariably. But when people do not place any value on it because they've not gone to school, they don't even know the value of education and what education can do for them. It is a time bomb. So I think that the out of school children, because those who are out of school, where are they? They're on the streets, causing nuisance, here and there. So it's these things relate to this insecurity that we are talking about. There's a relationship between these out of school children, poor education, and on insecurity. So that is why there is need for a holistic treatment of issues in Nigeria, because one impacts on the other one impacts on the other. So I think that we should really begin to think seriously about the education, not just in the north, everywhere in the country. Yeah.
And the IGP is assuring of arrest and prosecution of suspects that were involved in extrajudicial killings.
That was each time I see that video, it's gory. It's gory. I had a guy shouting, officer, begging. You know that it is quite against the rule of engagement for those who carry the arms in Nigeria or elsewhere. You know, even if somebody, that guy said I will take you to the person who did, and they would have gotten some information from him. I would have led to even arrest of more crime suspects. As he was. So when you have killed him, you have lost a veritable contact that would have led you to the other accomplices, if he was. So I think that it was terrible. I mean, it is getting too much in the country. I think everything should be done. If it is orientation, if it is taking them back to the police colleges and so on and so forth, but we should begin to think. We should begin to feel that life is not just taken in here, because nobody gives life except the Almighty God. So, well, I think that they should do that, and then begin to the exposure to alcohol, the exposure to whatever, and even their own their own employment conditions should be looked at to find out what are the things that make them to act the way they do, which is quite unfortunate.
All right, so we'll have to wrap it up here, but thank you so much, Loy Benwa, for joining us this morning on The Review.
Thank you, Chair. You're very pretty this morning.
Thank you. All right, we just finished our newspaper headlines and review segment on the program. Don't go anywhere, as we'll return shortly for more discussions on Signature Morning.
Every second, every minute, every day, news is breaking, events occur, and there are new developments. At Signature TV, we follow these stories objectively, bringing all sides without bias, explaining the complex issues, breaking down the numbers, and investigating the issues behind the news. Anywhere and everywhere, near or far, wherever the news is, we will be there. Signature TV. News in your pocket.
Nigeria's under-20 women's team, the Falconets, recorded a 2-0 victory over Malawi on Saturday in the first leg of their FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifying tie at the Remo Stars Stadium. The hosts took the lead through an own goal before Kindness Ifeanyi doubled Nigeria's advantage later in the match, putting the Falconets in a strong position ahead of the return leg. Nigeria, a consistent presence at every edition of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup since its inception, will carry a 2-goal cushion into the second leg in Malawi. The Falconets advanced to their stage after defeating Senegal 3-1 on aggregate in the previous round, while Malawi progressed with a commanding 6-2 aggregate victory over Guinea-Bissau. The winner of the two-legged tie will secure qualification for the 2026 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, scheduled to take place in Poland in September. Nigeria's senior national team, Super Eagles, will discover their opponents for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations qualifying series on May 19. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, has confirmed that the draw ceremony for the AFCON 2027 qualifiers will be conducted on May 19, 2026, ahead of the qualification campaign. A total of 48 countries, including co-hosts Kenya, Tanzania and Uganda, will compete for qualification spots for the continental tournament tagged AFCON Pamoja 2027. In tennis, Marta Kostyuk claimed the Women's Madrid Open title after overpowering Mira Andreeva in an impressive straight sets victory. The 23-year-old Ukrainian secured a career-best victory, her first WTA 1000 title after sealing a 6-3, 7-5 win over Andreeva, and marked the win with a backflip. The two players, whose countries have been at war since Russia's invasion in 2022, did not shake hands at the net after the match. Kostyuk finished her victory speech with "Glory to God and glory to Ukraine." In cricket, Yorkshire staged a spirited fight back on day 2 of the county championship match against Somerset at Towton. Seamer Jack White played a starring role, returning figures of 4-41 from 16 overs as Somerset were bowled out for 274, losing their last 7 wickets for just 73 runs in 28 overs. In form, Tom Abel registered 50 and was smeared an unbeaten 36, but the morning session belonged to the visitors, who bowled and fielded with intensity to restrict their opponents to a first innings lead of 112. In golf, Cameron Young remains the Cadillac Championship leader after 2 days, having backed up his sensational first-round display with another eye-catching performance to sit on 13 under. Young finally made his first bogey of the week, but it barely put a dent into his lead going into the weekend. He shot an 8 under par 64 on Thursday as the PGA Tour returned to the Blue Monster course at Trump National Doral in Miami for the first time since 2016, and followed that up with a 67 on Friday to remain the frontrunner on 13 under and take a 5-shot lead. That's Sport News on Signature TV. I am Christopher Lely.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on eVibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
So I should try harder. So
Okay, I don't know that one.
outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hub's on eVibes, where the vibes never stop. Only on Signature TV.
Bright and early as the day breaks, as the newspaper headlines trail the stories that shape the day. We at Signature TV trail the headlines that trail the day. We interrogate the headlines. We analyze the stories that make the headlines.
Wyatt is overrated, and they even overrated themselves, and when you go see it, they are insensitive of some Nigerian children who have never had what it was CBT.
With passion and emotion, we drive the conversation to change a narrative.
Let nobody be deceived by Nigerian high level of performing in agriculture export. We are still where we are.
Newspaper review on Signature TV every morning on Signature Morning, weekdays, and Signature New Day, weekends. Newspaper review on Signature TV. We do not just review the headlines, we make the headlines relevant to our daily lives.
A mammoth crowd filled the Ogu local government secretariat field as political leaders, traditional rulers, and stakeholders from across Enugu West gathered to make a decisive political statement. The event, marked by chants, solidarity songs, and symbolic gestures, culminated in an unanimous endorsement of President Bola Tinubu and Governor Peter Mbah for a second term in office.
And unanimously endorse our performing governor for a second term in office. Those in favor of this motion say aye. Those in favor of this motion say aye. Those that say nay. The ayes have it.
To demonstrate the commitment, the zone presented a check of 100 million naira to Governor Mbah to support his nomination process. Speakers at the rally emphasized that their endorsement was driven by performance, not politics.
Excellency, 4 years after today, as I oppose you vigorously, I will campaign for you vigorously. Your Excellency, politics is adversarial. And politics is about democracy in Nigeria is multi-party. And every party pushes their own ideas. Today, you are the leader of our party and the governorship candidate. Also very comfortable that you just have one thing. That with you we are safe. But personally, as a former commissioner for works, I don't want to talk about your strides in education, because what you're doing in education is completely transformative. For the first time, students from ENUGU will be equipped with world-class education to make them to compete and stand head and shoulders to students from Japan, from Germany, from China, from India. Your Excellency, this is transformative.
The endorsement motions were moved and seconded by federal and state lawmakers, with backing from traditional rulers, political leaders, and grassroots stakeholders across the 5 local government areas in the zone. Addressing the crowd, Governor Peter Mbah expressed appreciation for the overwhelming support, describing the rally as historic. He highlighted ongoing collaborations with the federal government and pointed to improvements in economic indicators and infrastructure development.
You don't need to go to the UK to run a PET scan. Do you know where you have to go to? International Hospital ENUGU. That's where you have to go to. International Hospital ENUGU. And I'm sure you followed the news.
Political observers say the endorsement signals early momentum in political activities in Enugu State, with Enugu West positioning itself as its decisive bloc. For now, the message from Ogu is clear, which is that continuity remains a preferred option for 2027 in Enugu. Chinemere TV.
Health is more than a diagnosis. It's your lifestyle, your choices, and your future. Join us on Inside Health, your weekly deep dive into the stories, science, and solutions shaping your well-being. From expert interviews to real-life journeys of healing and hope, we cover it all.
One of the complications of cancer management or treatment is they have some of them at one point in time, you see them having anemia. Okay, so you see them at times being transfused. But at the same time, you come in with the diet.
Nutrition, mental health, innovations in medicine, fitness, and everyday wellness. Whether you're managing a condition, staying informed, or just living your best life, Inside Health is your trusted guide.
I'm Chigichi Agorom, and I'll be with you every week on Inside Health, only on Signature TV.
Welcome back. Now, earlier on, we had a conversation with Caleb Okeke Enyobi, and in that conversation, we talked about the 2027 political build-up, INEC, and public trust of electorates. Do take a look.
The electorates. It's just to say that Nigerians are apprehensive about INEC. It's almost there's this apprehension. And it shouldn't be so. I mean, considering the level of work and resources that have been put into INEC since 2011, leading up to 2015, and then now, one would expect that those resources would have culminated into a better relationship. But that is not what we have today. What we have today is serious apprehension on the sides of the electorates about if INEC is going to live up to its fundamental principle of independence, especially as we move on to 2027 elections.
And that brings me to ask you, what would you say is INEC's biggest challenge or INEC's greatest challenge that is causing this apprehension, as you say, among the electorates?
Of course, the very first thing, INEC says the very first word in its nomenclature is independence. It's the inability of INEC in recent times to show their independence from the executive arm of government, especially from the one who pays the piper, that has resulted in this. I think that public perspective is shaped by whether the official communications, which at times we find that some of the appointees of the executives in this particular administration, the President Tinubu administration, seem to be ahead of INEC in terms of, we saw a situation where a government appointee made a public post, and then hours later, INEC then made the same post on their own page. Such optics does not enable the belief of electorates in the independence of INEC. So their singular most biggest challenge right now is how to manage to convince Nigerians that the I in the Independent Electoral Commission, National Electoral Commission, is not silent at this point in time. That's the biggest challenge, and that has to do with people, the people who are at the forefront of running the institution, and as well as the body language of the appointees of the present leadership of Tinubu, because the way and manner in which the government and its appointees are acting as though INEC is an appendage of the federal government, or acting as though INEC is an extension of the All Progressives Congress. It leaves nothing to be desired on the side of the citizens who are awake and alert at this point in time. If you add that to the misery index of the country and a good preponderance of Nigerians who are hoping, who are thinking that the status quo needs to change, you find that it does not provide a very conducive environment for people to have any trust in INEC whatsoever. So the biggest challenge is INEC trying to convince Nigerians that are independent as we go into the 2027 election. I think that has a lot to do with the psychological messaging that Nigerians are getting at this point in time, especially with INEC actions and, of course, the actions of the ruling All Progressive Congress.
Exactly. Now, speaking of, political parties, I mean, recently we've seen a lot of internal party dynamics and disputes, and we've also seen INEC, at the forefront of the involvement with these issues. So how do you think that this is also impacting on the public trust of INEC, particularly seeing that the political parties themselves are also having problems with fielding, candidates, or, how their candidates emerge for these elections? How do you think that these things are interconnected with how INEC is faring currently?
All right. The litmus test for how well INEC is doing is, of course, how political parties themselves as entities feel about INEC. That's one of the best, easiest litmus tests to check. If we say on the one hand that citizens are maybe, that the messaging that they are getting from INEC and from the government is a bit conflicting, then you can now say, okay, the last line to say if there is still trust in INEC will be to see what the political parties are thinking of INEC. And I think at the moment, there is a lot of lack of trust and suspicion, even by political parties, on the part of INEC. And this is not, sorry, it is not unfounded, because prior to this time, we have not seen INEC so proactive in making political parties look like they are not on the same footing. All parties are not equal. I mean, it's expected that every party, registered party in this country, should be seen as equal in the face of INEC. But that is not so, because the conduct of INEC recently, especially with the way that they have gone with the ADC and the way they have done with the Labour Party, if you compare that with how they also treated the APC when they had their crisis, you find that it is not an equal treatment. And that compounds the problem. It doesn't make it better, it compounds it. Because if political parties who are the first clients of INEC are not feeling that the services that INEC is giving to them is it's quality enough, or it's impartial, I think that leaves so much to be desired on the part of the institution of INEC. And it is also presents a very potent danger, where INEC has now been openly accused by political parties as wanting a coronation, not an. I mean, political parties. This is the words of political parties or actors in this instance. I think I'm quoting Senator Daniel Melai in this instance, where they have accused INEC of wanting a coronation of the Progressive Congress in 2027. Such words and such utterances from political parties and politicians, even though they may be viewed as political, but they hold some weight, especially when you look at it, if you compare the treatment that INEC has given to these parties who are aggrieved with the ruling of Progressive Congress. I mean, within the same political cycle, 2023 up to now, it gives cause for any keen mind to suspect that all is not well within the INEC, and that the political parties may have, of course, serious ground for their suspicion of INEC's culpability in the problems that they're having today.
Now, earlier on, when you talked about the challenges, you mentioned the issue of appointment. So I want to ask you, what alternative do you see as opposed to appointment of, the INEC chairman? What other alternative to choosing the head of INEC should be put in place to solve that problem, which seems to be the biggest challenge that they have now with getting public trust?
Okay, I think that Nigeria should have an integrity rating in its public service. There should be an integrity rating in Nigeria's public service. Whereas potential candidates for INEC should be coming from those who are scoring highest on those ratings. I mean, if you look at cognate organizations that people who work in those organizations may have some experience, some cognate experiences, with running INEC. I mean, organizations like, of course, institutions like federal institutions like universities and all that. There should be an open source integrity watch on public service in Nigeria, where those who have the highest points scored on integrity, due to their lived experiences, due to the testimonials, public testimonials on their behalf. I'll set a very simple example. When Dorakli was appointed as the chief of NDLEA, you find that, as well as not ended NAFDAC rather, you find that there was an anecdote that would always be quoted, where she returned money after she was given money by the federal government for surgeries abroad. So we need people like that. We need anecdotes like that about our public servants, and our intellectuals, so that when the country needs an appointment, that rating, that public rate, that integrity public rating of servants, public servants, will be called in the in forming the short lists for who should preside INEC. Also, another easier way to get an impartial Nigerian to run the affairs of INEC is to look at the institution itself. The institution should be able to rank its members and know who is always doing the right thing and who has more integrity within the organization. Names like Mike Igni, names that would come up in that instance, because we found that even being a part of the system, has been someone who has been very vocal as to the challenges and difficulties that they have faced in transforming elections in this country. So it's either we poll the candidates or the prospective candidates for INEC chairmanship from the general Nigerian civil service using an integrity watch, where civil servants will score points, and the highest scoring people in that instance would be potential candidates to be confirmed by National Assembly for the post of INEC. It shouldn't be at the whims and caprice of the president, to just pull anybody, without any metrics, to become INEC chairman, because that is where we run into trouble of what we saw with the ex-posts of the person who is there now. Those things do not encourage trust at all. So we have to have a more refined and pragmatic approach to knowing who should be qualified, so that at some point those scoring highest in that integrity watch would be picked, and then from there they can now be screened, and further somebody can be selected to head such a sensitive organization. I think that politicians should have nothing to do with it whatsoever.
And there have also been, several reforms, particularly, with INEC, a number of reforms and revised regulations for political parties and all that. But somehow we also see that these reforms or revised regulations, we still see that there are lapses and we still see that there are gaps when it comes to implementation. Why would you say that could be the reason why those reforms seem not to have yielded as much result as Nigerians would have expected?
Well, it's a case of taking one step back, one step forward. The reforms, that you are alluding to. It's a case of taking one step forward and taking 3 steps back. That's what we've seen. I was very opportune to listen to a former member of the INEC, Mike Igni, in his analysis of what has gone wrong with the present electoral reform. He mentioned a number of things that had been before now taken care of by way of reform that have now become reverted or even made worse than they were before. He mentioned sections like Section 63 that talks about the validation of ballot papers, which is of course a primary concern, where a presiding officer will be able to allow or accept a ballot paper that has no INEC security features on it. This presents a danger for ballot stuffing and all that, for politicians to print their own ballots. It's also been called to action. Section 137 has also been called into question, which leaves an accountability gap, for the INEC officials, from those who conduct elections, that is the presiding officers and those who handle INEC instruments on the days of election, from being joined in suits, in tribunal suits, to come to account for their actions and inactions on election day. So, and of course, the grounds of petition, the section 138, Igni also argues there that it provides room for rigging. So all of these things, if you put them together, you find that's why I said in the first place that our reforms has been 1 step forward and 3 steps backward. And one would think that all of these issues, all of these technical issues that have been noticed over the years, should be the grounds on which reforms should be made. But for them to have been done safely in 2015 and now in 2023, we are now going back to putting clauses that are that would affect the integrity of our elections. It tells something about the sincerity of the National Assembly to move us forward in terms of our election and to provide a more safe elections for Nigerians and credible elections for Nigeria. And that is the thing. When you leave politicians, when you leave this job to politicians, that's what happens. I believe that politicians should not have overwhelming inputs, as to how our electoral laws regulate. But of course, if you look at it very well, the National Assembly is under the Constitution, taxed with that rule. But how well they have done it, we've seen that they have not done it well. And with these new insertions into the new electoral law, it gives a lot of issues that, one, Nigerians would not want to come out to vote, because what is the point if all of these issues are hanging? And so, to answer your question directly, I think that we have not reformed properly. We have retrogressed when it comes to electoral reforms, with what we have seen today with 2020, the amendments to the electoral law. We have retrogressed in terms of reforms.
And now you mentioned something about the technical issues involved with election, and how that also affects the integrity. And a number of people are of the opinion that Nigeria and INEC is not at that level yet, or at that point where they can handle things solely electronically, or using technology as a result of, or due to a number of issues, for instance, cyber security fears and what have you. Do you share the same sentiment or ideology? Do you think that we are at that point where we can say that we can fully 100% trust the technology that we have and the people who also operate these systems to give what it is supposed to?
Well, if we don't trust technology, that means we have to trust people like the INEC chairman. I mean, I would rather trust technology than trust those who may have a preconceived notion about the election before even and holding high offices may influence, may force their notions into becoming reality. So I think that we have less danger with technology than we have with the manual ways that we are being forced to go back to. The point being that the beavers has been a singular most biggest reform we've had in recent times, and it has curbed a lot of issues, multiple voting, it has curbed a lot of issues, ballot box stuffing, and so many things. I think we should just add to it. We should just add to what has been already established. When you talk about cyber security and all that, is it not, when we talk about cyber security, is it not this same government, the same government who is talking about cyber security, and this same INEC, who came out after the 2023 election and said that the beavers had a glitch, and the service provider, Amazon, came to testify that they had not had a glitch in donkey years. I mean, so who is deceiving who? I believe that technology is far more reliable, whether even we considering the risk of cybersecurity, than leaving things to the discretion of human beings, especially as we've seen how Nigerians are wont to be very corrupt when it comes to them being solely in charge of getting things, doing things the right way. So the arguments for the non-adoption of technology does not hold any water, especially if you see the reality that technology is being applied in so many other. We see BVN. Nobody is afraid of. We've been using technology for banking for how many years now? Nobody's afraid of the fear, even with the present fear of hacking. Nobody has been saying. Nobody has said we should revert to days of ledgers and manual inputs of keeping balances in banks. So if we can be able to trust our monies to technology, I think we should be able to trust our votes to technology too, because increasingly that seems to be the only way forward. The issue of character question of Nigerians, no matter where they come from, whether they are from the east, from the west, from the north or south, we can't rely on the individuals to tell us what the votes or the results or the scores from the votes are. We must incorporate technology increasingly in our electoral experience here in Nigeria, because the alternative is to just have a very shameful display of orchestrated outcomes which I'm sure it's what is responsible for the voter apathy we have presently in our polity.
So looking at 2027, I mean, we're already seeing a lot of build-ups with political parties and what have you leading towards the election next year. And with what we've just spoken about as regards to the public trust of the electorates and INEC, what do you see happening in 2027 as regards, voter turnout and active participation in the elections next year?
First, I would just say that quickly, INEC should move immediately to resolve all pending issues. All, INEC and the courts especially, not just INEC. The courts and INEC should move immediately to resolve fastidiously all issues that have to do with political parties that are pending before any of the courts, whether the High Court or Appeal or Supreme Court. They should do that as soon as possible. That is the very first step that would ensure that there will even be 2027 elections in the first place. Because when parties are not on the ballot, I mean, how do we then have an election? So that's the first, in the first instance, that has to be done. And when parties are now wind of all of these problems, then the issue of the impartiality of INEC's chairman will now be called into play, because these are issues that will cause apathy next year. I foresee that if these issues are not handled, there will be a lot of voter apathy in 2027 because these issues, nobody wants to go and stand under the sun or under the rain and the scorching economic reality of January to do an exercise that will amount of utility. So INEC and the courts have their role to play, to see that Nigerians would make that effort again to come out 2027 to vote. As to what is going to happen if these conditions, if these basic things are done, I believe that Nigerians are primed to participate and to engage the democratic process that is by way of coming out for elections. But what remains is what the institutions do to make it possible for Nigerians to do so without having, preconceived ideas that their efforts would amount to nothing after they have done their own part as citizens. So INEC has a role to play in that, the courts have a role to play in that, and the politicians themselves have a role to play in conducting themselves properly and in discouraging the level of hate speech and the level of bigotry that we are seeing in this particular period, because we saw what the result of it was in 2023, and it will be very unfortunate if the politicians do not put their supporters in order and get their messaging right as we go into 2027. It may be a recipe for disaster in 2027. So these are the issues that are most crucial as we look forward to 2027 election.
A very big thank you to you, Caleb Okeke Enyobi, for joining us on the program this morning. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Nigerians.
New every morning on Signature TV, we open the day for you with needed energy, information, and required vibes to shape your day. From sizzling snippets of stories in various areas of life to intriguing conversations with net worth guests.
When you have people who have no track record becoming your leaders, you have a problem.
There's no outstanding gratuity when Obi took over from me. I left in all the accounts of Anambra State 13.8 billion for him.
Your day cannot be complete without Signature Morning on weekdays and Signature New Day on weekends. There is no better way to start your day except Signature Morning and Signature New Day every day on Signature TV.
Knowing what the system is plotting against the opposition, particularly against Peter Obi's candidacy, because who they are afraid of, clearly, the panic mood that was activated by the presidency all this while clearly shows who they are afraid of. They have seen the result of 2023, and their conscience has told them clearly that this is who won the election. And should he be on the ballot, that Tinubu's days in the villa will be numbered.
As at the time of this report, the Kwankwasia leadership, which has been in Abuja, the Nigerian capital, has headed back to Kano to populate the Nigerian Democratic Congress, the new platform on which Musa Kwankwaso wants to contest the 2027 presidential election.
The Kwankwasias have moved. The Kwankwasias have moved. They're not in ADC anymore because this place is not conducive for us to stay and achieve the okayness of Nigeria.
The Obedients are doing the same, even though they say belonging to a party counts less than promoting the P2B candidacy on the ticket of any political party. But why will two political heavyweights who could determine the outcome of the 2027 presidential election resign from their party after the party had secured what looked like a major legal victory at the Supreme Court?
Of course, I reached out to my leader, that is Mr. Peter Obi, who I also told at the very beginning, before he joined the ADC, that I hope there is a deal with the national leader of the ADC, because you can't take it away. The national leader of the ADC is Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. If there's no deal with him, that he will put the interests of the Nigerian people forward above his personal interests, then it will be a waste of time.
Two issues seem to have created the current situation in the ADC. The first is the indecision of the party to clearly zone its presidential ticket to the south. This would have been a sure bet for an Obi Kwankwaso ticket. The second is the refusal of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar to accept a north-south zoning arrangement. He has insisted on contesting the ticket of his party in defiance of arguments that the party needs to produce a winning ticket.
Are we talking about exiting as followers? Oh yes. In fact, I can affirm to you that personally, ADC is no more home to people like me. So, and I know that in the next 48 hours or 24 hours, it will be clearer that the next destination will be announced by the leader himself. Let me give you an insider view.
There are also allegations that Atiku Abubakar, who has contested the presidential election many times over, may in fact not be seeking to win, but to create a contest that guarantees victory for incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
But what is Atiku aspiring for is the turn of southern Nigeria. We still have one term, 4 years to go. So if he's not working for Tinubu, who is, by the way, his friend and his business partner, why is he in the race? He should give way, support Obi, so that we can win the election. But he's insisting clearly, even his followers are all arrogant about it, insisting that it's Atiku or nothing. So for me, it would actually mean Atiku may just necessarily be working for his friend, because he won't win the election.
The formation of the Nigeria Democratic Congress NDC by Bayelsa State Senator Siriake Dixon may not have been a blind political move, as suggestions arise that the Attorney General of the Federation may not withdraw the case seeking to deregister the ADC and some other parties. The NDC could become the party of refuge to which P2B and Kwankwaso could run, get shelter, and take part in the 2027 presidential election. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said that he is a stubborn politician willing to confront opposition in the 2027 election. The current situation in the ADC may well play into his political scheme to guarantee him victory in the election. In Abuja, I'm Waboz Njako for Signature TV.
Get plugged into the heartbeat of entertainment on The Hub, your ultimate show on e-vibes. From trending stories and social media drama to top charting music, must-watch movies and exciting moments from the world of arts, we've got it all. Join us for unmissable conversations with your favorite entertainment personalities, plus fun segments every week.
So I should try harder. So
Okay, I don't know that one.
outfit of the day.
Oh, I don't do that. That's some Gen Z stuff.
Oh, now you say it's a Gen Z stuff.
It's everything you love about entertainment, served fresh every week at 1 p.m. with weekend repeats just in case you missed it. The Hubs on E-Vibes, where the vibes never stop, only on Signature TV.
We are local.
International communities observing
Why the main market is in chaos. People are
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye. Aye. We have taken it by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Residents of Unkwere Inyi in Oji River local government area have been thrown into distress following severe flooding around the Ozone Bridge, cutting off movement and disrupting daily life. The situation grounded economic, social, and educational activities in the area, as what used to be a vital link road has now turned into a danger zone as floodwaters from a swollen river submerged the entire area. The flooding has not only rendered the area impassable, but has also spread across adjoining roads and farmlands, destroying crops and economic trees, which serve as major sources of livelihood for residents. Farmers in the area lament heavy losses as hectares of farmland have been washed away, raising fears of food shortages and worsening economic hardship in the community. The situation has also left commuters stranded, particularly those traveling between Ugwoba and Inyi, as the flood has completely cut off access along the road. Residents said the once busy corridor is now deserted, with commercial activities brought to a standstill. For school children, the impact is even more severe, as many have been forced to stay at home, as parents fear for their safety, citing the risk of drowning while attempting to cross the flooded area. Community members are calling for urgent intervention to prevent further damage and restore access to the affected communities. They are appealing to the federal and ENUGU state governments and relevant emergency agencies to provide immediate relief materials and commence rehabilitation of the bridge and surrounding roads. They are also calling for the intervention of their representatives in the National Assembly, saying that unless urgent action is taken, the situation could worsen, further isolating Unkwere Inyi and neighboring communities. There are fears that more communities could be cut off as the rains persist, unless swift intervention is carried out to address the growing humanitarian and economic crisis.
Bright and early as the day breaks, as the newspaper headlines trail the stories that shape the day. We at Signature TV trail the headlines that trail the day. We interrogate the headlines. We analyze the stories that make the headlines.
WAEC is overrated, and they even overrated themselves, and when you don't see it, they are insensitive of some
Weekends, newspaper review on Signature TV. We do not just review the headlines, we make the headlines relevant to our daily lives.
You're still watching Signature Morning on Signature TV. Now we see that opposition politics appears to be increasingly unstable. Defections are increasing. Coalition talks are fragile. There seems to be a lot of internal party crisis, and every attempt to create or build a united front continue to suffer setbacks. And so this morning we ask, are the opposition parties deliberately muffled? Joining us via Zoom this morning, we have Dr. Joachim Ezeji, who is a policy and sustainable development analyst. Dr. Joachim, if you can hear me, you're welcome to Signature Morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Are you hearing
Dr.
me?
Ezeji, if you can hear me, you're welcome to Signature Morning.
Yeah, I can hear you. I hope you hear me too.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you for joining us once again. So now let's look at, what is happening in the political space. First and foremost, looking at Nigeria today, what is your assessment, or how healthy would you say the opposition ecosystem is, looking at the present condition of what is happening? What do you think about the state of opposition parties in the country?
You cannot. We cannot really talk about the opposition in isolation. You look at the general polity of the Nigerian system to be able to fully understand what is going on. There is a lot of rancor, a lot of toxicity, and then a lot of inability to meaningfully contribute in a positive way. Nigeria, as of today, is badly governed. Governance is very low end. You see that government finds it difficult to respond to respond to citizens who seek to know why things are this bad. And you see, you have more of government of palliatives than sustainable inputs. So opposition politics is, if you say the opposition politics is being muffled, I wouldn't fully agree with you per se, because there are no evidence. But even if you insist, and I have to agree with you on that line, then I will say that the opposition brought it to themselves. Yeah, and they made themselves so vulnerable, both internally and externally, and that generally depicts the Nigerian political environment, a political environment of limited principles, of transactional politics, and where people see politics as a way to get by and not to meaningfully contribute to sustainable development of the country. So these are the challenges we have. And you see, playing politics in an environment where the executive arm of government appears to have swallowed both the judiciary and the legislature can be very difficult. You look at Nigeria, almost all the opposition governors have all joined the ruling party, and you have almost all the legislators in the National Assembly, all the opposition joining the ruling party. That cannot be healthy. That cannot be said to be healthy. And in an atmosphere where there is so much poverty, you don't look for evidence of bad governance. It's there. Evidence of bad governance is there. When you look at the dividends of democracy, they are not there. And you see access to justice is delayed and often denied. So when most of these things are people, and you see the legislature, how laws are made, how they don't really take into consideration opposition inputs. They just do what they want. You begin to ask, is it the kind of democracy we fought for? Very unfortunate. So that is our reality now. That is, we are living with it, and we hope by the end of the elections, lessons will be learned and corrections will be made.
Now, looking at what is happening, we've seen a huge number of defections you mentioned that as well, from one party to another party. And most recently, we've seen that even the coalition that we had, which is the ADC, seems to also be dismantling, and members from ADC are moving to another opposition party, the NDC. So what do you think that this continuous defections and movements from one party to another, how would you say that it's also affecting, the opposition parties and, the quality and the seriousness of, having a strong opposition against the ruling party?
Yeah, we felt it was we are going to have very competitive election. if when the opposition seem to have come together. They come together under ADC. You have all the major gladiators, all the candidates who had the highest number of votes in the last elections coming together, but that seems to have moved started from what we saw yesterday and during the week over the weekend. So it's a challenge for the opposition to find a way to work together, to align. You know, when you talk about opposition not keeping a united front, you will now be able to go further to interrogate it. It's difficulties in having a consensus. If they can't agree on themselves on how to move forward, then it means there are issues with basic agreements within those circles. There is need for them to agree before the need for them to agree before they even come public. So that means basic agreements were not made. And if the opposition goes into this election as a divided house, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. Because if they are thinking of uprooting a hegemony like APC that have taproots everywhere now, it will be difficult with a divided house. So I thought they have done their homework very well and they understood the challenge ahead of them. But if they decided to split, that means they are going to have split votes. And split votes cannot give them what they want. And you see, I also had expected that the opposition had a commanding authority. Like when in 2015, there was a commanding authority and everybody was rallying around that leader, in 2015. But now, people who were expected to play that role in the opposition refuse to play that role. And yet they insist they are still in the race. So it's a tall order, frankly. But I hope they'll be able to organize themselves and put their house in order and be able to confront, go into the election as a formidable group to wrestle power. But when you look at it beyond that, beyond party politics,